and look who is there. Boom, what's up, familia? Dayspring here with such an incredible episode of Power of X-Men. I feel this is like a dream come true. I was in Montreal with Sean, Latverian Lad, and Hammy, and we were in an underground mall, and there was a GameStop. And I walked into the GameStop not expecting anything, just expecting to find discounted legends or legends from a couple years ago, whatever. And look who is there. Age of Apocalypse Gambit. And it took me a second because we had gone to this underground mall. We were staying at a hotel next door. It was so cold outside. We actually went into the mall to try to find some Prosecco to take it back to our hotel room. We were walking around. It's like a labyrinth. I felt overwhelmed being in there. So going into GameStop, I'm like, let me calm my nerves. And he was there. And the thing is, I have posted so much about this figure in the last 2 months that when I saw him, it didn't register to me. And again, because I wasn't expecting to find anything new, it didn't really register to me that this is the new Marvel Legends X-Men wave that was supposed to be coming out, I thought, mid-year, around April or May. And I was like, holy frack. And I grabbed him and I immediately spun around. I looked at the cashier. I'm like, do you have more? I must have looked like a madman. And the cashier just kind of looked at me, very, very apathetic, right? He's like, whatever's out there. And I was like, ah! And so all of a sudden, I'm going through all of the shelves. I'm trying to see which figures they have, what they don't have. He was the only one left. So there is some Marvel Legends collector in Montreal who got there first thing in the morning and grabbed all of them, literally took everything. And I'm here what? This is so weird. Gambit is so great. I would have expected Fabian Cortez to be the one left behind to be the peg warmer. But I was like, you know what? It's fine. I want every single figure in this wave. Maybe Extreme Wolverine is going to rank low. But regardless, I was like, I want every figure in this wave. So I have him. I'm so excited. And I literally call out to Hammy and Sean, and I probably don't even sound human. I sound just as crazy as I sound right now. And they come up, and Sean's like, "Oh, that's great." And Hammy looks at it and goes, "Oh, you know why he's the one left behind? Look at his face." And as you're seeing in this image right here, he had a smudge or a crud on his face, and I was like, "No. No way! I can't believe it. Just my luck. I find the new X-Men wave early while I'm on a trip with my two best friends in Montreal. I love hunting for legends. I love finding legends IRL. I order them. Everyone remembers Warbird disaster at Target. I order all my legends, but finding them in the wild, hunting for Marvel Legends, right? That's the beauty of the sport that obviously is long lost in today's world, but the hunt for Marvel Legends, right? That Walmart wave back in 2005, finding it once it gets on the pegs. Oh, it's so satisfying. Anyways, and I was like, just my luck. It's it's a factory defect. It has smudges and everything on its face. It's crud. It's crusty. I'm like, ah. So I'm like, well, you know what? I'm still going to buy it. Why not? Let me buy this figure because this is going to be a token, a remembrance of a wonderful trip with my friends. But, as we're walking over, I'm holding a bottle of Prosecco. I'm holding Marvel Legends. I got my best friends with me. And I'm feeling a tinge of optimism. I'm like, you know what? I think I can perhaps I can get this crud off. And it came off! It came off!
Sean doesn't care.
It came off!
No more boogers.
No Morgles. I did. And look how great he looks. Look how handsome he is, familia. Oh my God. There's his staff. Look at him. Look at his hair sculpt. Look at this cape. I mean, this is a cape born to be wicked. Just my opinion here. Look at that figure. So good. So well done. I want my hats off to Hasbro. Now, of course, we did get a previous Age of Apocalypse Gambit in the 5-inch Toy Biz wave. from back in the day. But however, here is some fun continuity. He was initially announced in that wave one of Toy Biz Marvel Legends Age of Apocalypse, that initial first wave, but he never made it to the shelves. We would eventually get him as part of a two-pack, Marvel's famous couples two-pack with Rogue, which was a repaint of the Generation X Emma. So this is really the only second time Age of Apocalypse Gambit has been done. Look at that. Look at those forelocks. Look at his face. Look at his teeth. It's just so great. The blaster hands, I think that's what Hammy called it. Look at it, right? It looks so good. Look at the boots, everything. Oh my God. So Hammy and I went to the bar. If you follow us on Instagram.
What's up, Familia? Welcome, Mon Ami, as Gambit would say. Today we're showing off Gambit, Age of Apocalypse, with his unique arm sculpt, his tiny eyes, and teeth. Can you believe they gave him teeth? Zoom in, teeth! There.
And we literally sat there for 2 hours pulling up photos from Age of Apocalypse, Gambit and the Externals, comparing it. And look, for the most part, nailed it with this figure. I mean, look, his boots, very comic accurate. His cape, we were like, does he have a hood with his cape? Is it just a tattered cape? No, he does have a hood. He does have a hood in the comics. So it just looks really good. Look at the detailing on his arms here. Look at that. Look at this. Look at the belt. Now, a couple of things to note. His cape does have some kind of medallion in the comics here, but like that's fine. I understand why we have this kind of cape here, but he does have a medallion there, and he does have arm brackets in the comics, which he does not have here. But again, very minor, very minor. Now, if you've engaged with Power of X-Men before, you know Gambit and the Externals is my favorite Age of Apocalypse book. Tony Daniel did the art for the first 2 issues, and then Sal LaRocca comes in for the last 2. So issues 1 through 2, Tony Daniel, 3 and 4 is Salvador LaRocca. And listen, I love LaRocca. I think Extreme X-Men is one of his finest runs. Tony Daniel, though, nailed it with Gambit. I mean, he's got the long, crazy hair. He looks very Robin Hood-ish. It's very hyper stylized. I prefer him on the book. You know, that's sort of where like my mind goes. This figure is inspired by the Sal LaRocca art, which by no means is bad, but I don't think it's the best Sal can do. He was earlier on in his career. This is, I mean, I want to say maybe like a decade, 7, 8 years before he would do Extreme. Very different landscape for Sal LaRocca. Art is still beautiful, still very fluid. This figure is based off of Sal LaRocca, but it looks so good. It's like they took, okay. Oh gosh, I have so many feels. So the Astonishing Emma we got last year, she's based off of the John Cassidy art. And John Cassidy was a phenomenal artist. But there are certain panels in Astonishing X-Men where you can tell that he was on deadline and he had to rush through the art, right? So as a result, I think Hasbro was using some images of Emma that weren't as flattering to make that figure, and you can tell. I think if we're going to get Marvel Legends figures inspired by a specific artist, right? That Monet is Terry Dotson, right? Chamber and Husk, those are Chris Pachalo from Generation X, right? This Sal LaRocca. If we're going to get those specific panels, that specific artist, that's going to be your roadmap, it should be done like Gambit, where you're going to take what was on the panel and bring it to life, but make it better. Make it better. Wow, better. So as you can see, the figure is absolutely beautiful. If we're going to be thinking of Age of Apocalypse figures, you know, we can look at them on a scale, right? A perfect 10 being the deluxe Age of Apocalypse, or Kitty, or Colossus. Colossus is a beautiful figure. Right, and then you have kind of like your mid-tier, like Magneto and Rogue, which they look great, by the way. Le comí, right? That's what you would say in Spanish. Hasbro ate with the Age of Apocalypse wave. They're great. But if on the lower end, like, bottom of the barrel, you have like Cyclops, Age of Apocalypse Cyclops, which the figure is pretty basic. Gambit is right up there with Colossus. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I essentially just said he's a 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, this figure is a 10. Now, I love Gambit in the Age of Apocalypse. His story in Age of Apocalypse is probably the best out of all the characters in there. I mean, again, Colossus, making this another comparison to Colossus, who has a really big emotional arc in Age of Apocalypse. You have Gambit, and it is emotionally tragic and so incredibly beautiful. And so in Age of Apocalypse, Gambit and Magneto are best friends until Gambit sees Magneto kissing Rogue, and then Wolverine attacks them, and Rogue saves Magneto first and Gambit second. And Gambit's like, she's made her choice. And so he leaves the X-Men. But years later, once Bishop comes into play and he's talking about a world without Apocalypse in it, Magneto recruits Gambit so he can go into Shi'ar space and get the M-Cron crystal, because that's going to be an essential part of making sure they can restore reality. So when Gambit gets to the M-Cron crystal, the M-Cron crystal guardian, this little goblin named Jeff looks at Gambit and he's here like, well, if you want to take a shard of the crystal, you have to leave something behind. And Gambit just looks at Jeff and he's here like, I'm just a petty thief from New Orleans. I'm just a Cajun boy. I have nothing to offer this crystal. I've never had anything to offer anyone in my life. And Jeff looks at Gambit and says, that's not true. Magneto put you on this mission because he knew you wouldn't fail her. And Gambit then gets it. He goes, Rogue, this one's for you. And so he sacrifices his love for Rogue to get that shard of the M-Cron crystal, and he takes it back to Earth. And of course, Age of Apocalypse ends with the reality being restored, 616 being restored. Very convoluted story. We've covered it on the podcast. Go check it out. But this character, this version of Gambit, is epic and incredible. And having him in a Marvel Legends figure format, Familia, 10 out of 10. I don't have any of the other figures. I'm like number 1 out of the way, but I haven't had any other ones to compare to. In terms of the Age of Apocalypse, this is one of the nicer Age of Apocalypse figures. Again, Age of Apocalypse figures are pretty flawless in my book. I am being a little biased, but they are flawless in my book. Gambit stacks way high on that. So I think you should get him. He looks really great. He has a little stubble, as you can see. Awesome articulation. Figure is absolutely, is it a must-have? If you're an X-Men fan, I would say yes, 100%. It's a must-have. But if you're judicious, if you don't want to be paying 24 or 42 Canada for Marvel Legends, you already have a Gambit, you can certainly skip out on this figure. He's not essential to any team building unless you're collecting the Age of Apocalypse figures like me. By the way, here are all the Age of Apocalypse figures I have. I brought them up from Miami. I haven't put them up on a shelf yet because we're waiting to get new shelves up here in Hoboken. But look how he looks. And okay, here's the only criticism I have. His accessories. He should have come with an M-Cron crystal. Or you could have gotten one of Blink's, like Blink darts, and repainted it and called it a shard of the M-Cron crystal. But the one I have here is actually the HeroClix M-Cron crystal, and I got that for like $6.99. Pedro mini-made it. Was the one who told me about it a couple years ago, and it's usually Nate who holds this crystal, but I'm giving it to Gambit. There's no way it can't be Gambit holding this now. Now that we have an Age of Apocalypse Gambit, he has to hold it, but here he is next to Rogue and Magneto. They looks great. Absolutely beautiful. I love the colors. I love the deco. They're very vibrant. They're kinetic and they pop. So again, Familia, you like Age of Apocalypse? You've collected all the Age of Apocalypse figures thus far? Yes, Gambit is 100% essential. Get Gambit. That being said, the prices for Legends are getting pretty up there. If you're watching your budget, you can skip out on him. You know, if you're not collecting the Age of Apocalypse figures, he's not going to fit into your like main X-Men figures, right? So if you have a Gambit already, if you have that 90s Gambit, if you have X-Men 97 Gambit, whichever Gambit you have, the Strike Force Gambit, you're fine. But if you're a Gambit fan and Age of Apocalypse fan, this is a must. I love this. I'm going to be breaking down all these figures in a similar fashion as I get them in, but hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode of Power of X-Men here on YouTube. All right, Familia, we'll see you later.